Welcome back, everyone. This is lesson 7 of how to automate your appointments. Aya. Today, we're going to be talking about teams and how to set them up. Okay, first, let me paint some context. Who, why, what teams on Calendly? Okay, let me talk about what that means. So, first off, who would want a team on Calendly in the first place? All right. It's essentially folks that obviously they have to be on a team, right? So whether that's in the same organization or some shared purpose, and there needs to essentially be like a key objective of whatever you're delivering, right? And most of the time it's going to be something in customer service, or it could be something in sales, right? And so here's a couple real examples of teams on Calendly. The first one is a group of Japanese tutors that essentially provide one-on-one and group tutoring sessions that are paid. And the way this works is folks could book a time with the Japanese tutor for some one-on-one time, and they could pay a fee. And the way Calendly works is it'll capture the payment, and it will also check the calendars of the tutors that are part of this team and then assign them that session. So you can essentially build a tutoring business on Calendly. Or if you are a tutor, with your group of friends in college and you want a way to make money, Calendly only costs $15 a month to do this, right? So now you have a whole new tool that you can help build your business. Another real example of teams on Calendly, this is housing counseling. And, it's not necessarily just Calendly either. There are many tools that do this specifically for housing counseling organizations. And, there are these HUD approved nonprofit organizations, and they provide counseling services, housing counseling services. And one of the ways to help manage it when you're talking about, not just dozens, but you're talking about hundreds of people per organization, sometimes even, much more than that for some of these national groups, right? You're talking about lots of appointments and lots of forms and information that needs to be tracked. And so a tool like Calendly with an integration into a spreadsheet or a CRM is a great way to help manage all of that on the cheap. Another real example of teams on Calendly is our agency sales teams. I see this all the time. I've done it myself, and it's essentially really simple. If you're able to generate leads online, generate qualified leads, then you could essentially facilitate an appointment between the qualified lead and the sales rep. I've done that as a sales rep. I've done that as a founder. I do that for myself for my own business, right? And so if you are in a position to scale your sales team, Calendly can help you do that. So some key benefits for why anybody would want to set up a team. Okay. So again, first off, Calendly can help you easily set up and manage your customer service or your sales experience. And this is also key, while sharing the responsibility across the appropriate team members in a transparent way so that you can see it, right? And so that leads me to number 2, which is Calendly lets you track all of the appointments that your team is setting and servicing. And with that data, you can start discovering insights. And quite frankly, you can also discover flaws so that you can address them. Okay. The third thing is you can, and this is like a, kind of like, oh my gosh, I just had an aha moment recently with this. And that is, if you have multiple folks on a team inside of Calendly, it makes it a lot easier for you to schedule meetings when everyone is available. If you're in an organization, in a company, maybe you have visibility on your managers or your coworkers' calendars. But if you're collaborating with, entrepreneurs or in partnerships that aren't necessarily part of your organization, where you're not sharing the same email, then visibility on calendar, you are going back to the minutia. 6 p.m. work or 4 p.m. or whatever the time is. It's getting late. But my point is, when you have your collaborators in the same team on Calendly, it becomes much easier for you to coordinate these meetings when everyone is available. as long as they're using this. And so today I'm going to show you how to set up this team, and then I'm also going to talk through the two event types that Calendly supports for teams. That's round robin and collective. So let's just dive in, and I'll explain how round robin and collective work as we go. So let's go back into our Calendly account. And I think I brought this up earlier. I was like, by default, you are going to see this My Calendly here. And if you click on this drop down, you see like it says, hey, you can work in an organization, right? And the way to do that is you need to add seats. And so if you're the administrator for this account, you're going to want to add seats. So let's do that right now. And then we'll be able to set up teams once we have other people on this account. And so I am going to go ahead and send myself some invites here. There we go. This is fine. What is happening here? So I just typed in the emails, and now it's showing me the event types. It's telling me choose what event types. And it's cool because when you're going to set up your team members' accounts, they will have their own flexibility to set up their own appointments as needed. Okay. But you can also standardize the appointments. And so if you did have a standard appointment, I would suggest building that first on your account so that you can paste it into everybody else's account. Or you could just build it. We could literally build it right now, or maybe not. Maybe we cannot build it right now. I think we had to build it in the beginning, but that's okay. We can always build it in the future too after the setup process. Okay, but it's a cool thing when you can have like a specific calendar event type, and you could just copy paste it over to everybody so that they have the automated emails, reminders, text messages, follow-ups built into it. Okay, so let's move on. One more thing though that's really important. We're not done setting up the team here. This is setting up essentially their own accounts that we're paying for, and then we have to set up the team to add them. Okay, so we just went ahead and invited these users, myself. Let's say they already had a Calendly account. They would need to delete their existing Calendly account to join the team, or at least that has been the workaround that has worked for me and others so far. Not something that I've heard from Calendly support. So maybe they have a better way to do it. But for me, if you're trying to add somebody to your team who already is on a team, they need to delete their own account, remove themselves from the other team. And more specifically, it's actually organization, the Calendly organization. All right, because what we're going to do is build teams. So the folks that are in your organization can only really be in your organization, and then inside of your organization, you can build out different teams. All right, I hope that makes sense. And if it doesn't, message me on Facebook and say, Elias, that explainer didn't make sense. Can you explain it again? And I will. Okay, so I hope that was simple to follow along with adding new people. And you can see they're pending. Come on, Elias, set up your account. They're pending here. And if you needed to remove them, you can resend an invite, you can. All right, let's move on. We're going to go back to the home page, and now we're going to set up our teams. And I hope it's this blue button. There we go. Big blue button comes in clutch, doesn't it? So we can click new team and build a team of people. So what should we build today? Want to keep it simple, but I also want it to be, somewhat creative. Yeah, I mean, if you're building a team, it could be for, like I said, your sales organization. It could be for a new business that you're starting. It could be for a collaborative project. Yeah. So let's say, for example, I'm launching a new startup, and I want to build a team for this startup. And this team is going to have meetings, right, internally to jam on the startup. And then we're going to have different types of meetings. For example, we could have customer discovery meetings, and we can have partnership meetings. Okay, so team name, I'm going to call this team new startup idea. All right, cool. welcome to our scheduling page. Please follow the instructions. This is going to be, I think, on the Calendly page for the attendee. So I don't know that that's the message. I'll, try to customize these things. Type to add team member. And remember, I think they're pending, but it says, pending. And of course, don't forget to add yourself if you're the host. So you can see I can manage the team, and I can also assign other people to manage the team. I'm not going to do that right now. If I had a logo for this new startup idea, I could throw that in there too. Of course, the time zone. So let's go ahead and create that. And now we have new startup idea team created. All right. And now it's like, okay, well, what kind of meetings do you want? Well, the first thing I want my startup team to do is I want them to meet regularly, or I want to create a mechanism for all of us to meet. And so let's go ahead and set up this collective. And so I'm going to call this, startup stand up. I don't know when these will happen or how frequent, but we'll see. So now startup stand up, when can people book this event? Okay, so there's like multiple layers to how Calendly checks people's calendars. It's gonna check everybody's independent calendar. That's part of this. But it's also asking us to set availability here. Okay, so for example, there might be worlds where I'm like, I don't want people to have the ability to book these meetings at any given time. And that might be more applicable to something like a podcast interview. I want my podcast interview to happen at a time when I know that it's going to be quiet and I'll be focused and I'll be prepared. And so, a lot of folks might say, well, I'm going to have my podcast interviews once a week at this certain time, or maybe you're doing a live stream series and you can schedule it here, right? So you could say, I just want my podcast to be from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And that's going to be Mondays and everything else is out, and you're limiting yourself potentially, if you just go so narrow, but that's kind of an example of how this will work. And so for our startup stand-up meetings, I'm just going to say, they need to happen between like 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. That's pretty broad, right? But and cool. I could that was for Monday. I could decide what I want for Tuesday. I could say, no, we don't do those meetings on Tuesdays, and we don't do those meetings on Wednesdays, and we don't do those meetings on Thursdays, but we do those meetings on Fridays and Mondays. And so I was able to set that up. And I'm like, well, a startup stand-up meeting, what's the purpose? Like somebody has to book it and then they need to choose an agenda for it. And then the agenda needs to have like some action items. So what is the range? I don't necessarily want somebody to book it 90 days in the future. I want it to be relevant, something actionable for our team. So I'm going to say, you can book it within 14 days. Right. And then how long does it need to be? Let's say 30 minutes, or, that could be great. 15 minutes, 5 minutes, share your doc, 10 minutes, talk about it, pitch it, and then 15 minutes Q&A and brainstorm our next step, something like that. All right. Just, off the cuff here, because this whole thing can, my point of doing this off the cuff and trying to be creative about it though, is to inspire ideas for you and let you customize this for what's going to be best for your organization and your goals. Okay, so just keep that in mind as you're jamming. We essentially, this is, just to set your settings, configurations, and hit next. It's as simple as that. Team members and locations is the next step here. And again, we could say Google Meet. And as long as I make sure everybody on our team has that set up, that will work. Same deal with Zoom. But again, we want to make sure that everybody on the team has it set up. Otherwise, one example or a couple examples, you could do a custom invite, right? And sometimes I would paste my Zoom link in here. So that could work. If you have multiple people in the organization, though, it might be the organization Zoom link. And then phone call. I will call my invitee. That's a default of what you could use. And then what that means for the team members is they need to look at the phone number that we captured and call them. Okay. So hit next. Let's see what's happening. All right. So now we set up the core settings for this startup stand up. And next we can add in like even more. So like we have phone number, email, name. That's great. And maybe I want to have agenda, right? Like maybe I want to edit, my questions to be, agenda items, right? It could be whatever is the right fit for you. So I hit required and applied, but there's a couple options here. Okay, so you can do whatever is the right fit for you. Hit save and close and jam on. And you can personalize these things here. So the calendar invites. Now the email reminders and email follow-up and text reminders, it does not look like these are done automatically by the workflows, maybe because this is a team and it's a new feature. So because of that, you would just come here and customize it. So for your calendar invitations, you could personalize this. And, I normally try to change this up a little bit, give it more context. Same deal with the body, give it more context when it makes sense, of course. And then email reminders. Are there any key things that people need to know about when coming to the meeting? Plug that in there. So, if I wanted to do that, I hit on and personalize, and then you can personalize this. And you can decide when to send it, so you could send it twice if you wanted, right? 72 hours and 24 hours, or 24 hours and 2 hours. But normally I just go with the 24 hours. I go with the calendar invite, the 24-hour email reminder, the 1 hour follow-up. And the reason why I do 1 hour is because I'm going to personally follow up, either 24 hours or in a couple days or in a week, just to touch base. But this is a great way. If I know after this type of meeting, everybody needs to have access to the notes, for example, then I'll set up a rolling notes doc and plug it in here. Okay. Again, whatever you needed to do it for you. And then text reminders. I love this. This is one of the reasons why I like Calendly so much, because I could do a 1 hour before the meeting. Yo, I don't say yo in my text to my guests, but hey, it's Elias. We have a meeting coming up in an hour. Looking forward to it. And then if it's a phone call, I'm gonna call you. If it's a Zoom link, jump into Zoom. The details are on your calendar. And then maybe I'll throw in my phone number, my cell phone, to say, hey, if something comes up, just text me or call me. Okay. And it doesn't happen often, but every now and then folks call me to say, hey, something came up and we got to reschedule. So that is, the steps for setting up this collective and customizing it. I'm gonna hit save and close. And again, like I mentioned in the past lesson, you can customize this confirmation page so that you could redirect to a confirmation page. So when, we did this for tutors, we wanted to redirect folks to a thank you page. In any scenario, you might want to redirect folks to a thank you page. This is cool. Passing event details to your redirected page. I'm gonna have you just learn more if you want to do it. It's not necessary, but it is cool if you're trying to get their name, email, phone number, any other questions that you're asking here, auto-filled into a landing page on your website. Not bad. Might lift conversions. And of course, you can collect payments. So if this was, now this is a collective meeting, right? This was the internal meeting. So I'm not going to really collect payments from when folks want to set that up. But again, like you can design this however you want it, right? I set this up so it's called Startup Stand Up, and it's a meeting between startup founders, right? But this could also be this could become group consultation, and I can have a group of expert marketers, and we could charge $1,000 to meet with us for an hour, and you'd get all these deliverables, right? So that's an example of another collective with a team. So this is on. That's great, and it's going to check against everybody's schedule to make it happen, and then it's going to send an invite from the organizer. That was the collective type. The other thing for this new startup idea is like partnerships or sales or customer discovery. So I'm going to now build a new event type. Remember, I'm inside of my new startup idea team. So Ideally, it goes there. So there we are. I'm going to choose round robin. And who's going to be a part of this? Yeah, pretty much me and Elias. LOL. But what we're going to do here is we're going to do a partnership call. And you don't need to meet with both me and Elias. You just need to meet with either one of us. Okay. Does that make sense? If doesn't, let's say you have multiple salespeople in your organization, and you have leads that are booking calls. You can have a sales call go to John, and you can have the next sales call go to Tom, right? And so let's just call this, client development call for now. Okay, and let's just keep it moving so you can see what the steps are for this. And so from the client development call, again, we're going to need to plug in people's availability. Now, here's the thing. I could break this out into shifts. I could go 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., and I'd be like, okay, well, only, one of us is going to do that one. And then I'm going to do a new interval. I'm going to say 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Or shoot, I can even go 12 p.m. Yeah, 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. And I can say both of us, we're going to do that. And then there's a 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. shift, right? And only the other person is going to do that, right? So I can build these types of schedules out, and I can apply it to all my Mondays. And for my Tuesdays, have something else, and so on. If this was actual sales or partnerships, I don't let folks book 2 months in advance. I try to keep it like, hey, let's take action now. So maybe it's 10 days, maybe it's 60 minutes. Again, all of this is customized to you. Maybe you need 10 minutes to look at your sales notes before you do it and look, audit the person, whatever the case might be. Pull up your CRM, whatever it might be. Customize this for you and make sure that your team is onboarded. And it looks like I had an error, and it's because I put 0 when I meant to put 10. All right. Now, with the round robin situation, it's not like the collective. The collective is everybody meeting at once. The round robin situation is one person from the team going. And so we can optimize for availability or distribution. It's really up to you and what your team cares about. But if I did availability, I can also add priority to folks. I could say we're equally prioritized, or I could say we're unevenly prioritized, whatever the scenario is. And I can also customize the location for each individual. So if certain people want to use Google Meet versus Zoom, that's great. But on one hand, we're looking at what works best for the host, and on the other hand, we're looking at what works best for the attendees. So just keep that balance in mind as you build out your teams. That was the last step. I hit next, and these additional options are the same as usual. I hope that lesson on teams was straightforward so that you could get started on setting up yours. And if you have any questions or you want more clarification, please don't hesitate to reach out to me.